Hello aspirants, welcome to GS Wizard. Welcome to the first video of Space Technology section of Science and Technology. In this video, we are going to understand what is a satellite and how satellites orbit the Earth. And after that, we will discuss about the importance of satellites. And also, in this video, we are going to discuss about the different types of orbits, about the geosynchronous, geostationary, and geosynchronous transfer orbits. And also, we are going to discuss very briefly about the INSAT satellites of India. So let's just begin. So, what is a satellite? Let us start our discussion with a very fundamental question. What is a satellite? A satellite is a planet, moon, or machine that orbits a star or a planet. So, a satellite can be a planet, like planet Earth, which is revolving around the sun, or satellite can be a moon, like our moon, which is revolving around the Earth, and satellite can also be a machine, like the one in this image. Okay, so satellite can be a planet, a moon, or a machine that orbits around a star or a planet. Earth is a satellite because it orbits the sun. Similarly, the moon is a satellite because it orbits the Earth. As simple as that. Now, Earth and moon are the examples of natural satellites. There are also thousands of artificial satellites that are currently orbiting the Earth, that are currently revolving around the Earth. Okay. Now, why do we need satellites in the first place? Why should we send machines into the space that revolve around the Earth? So, satellites are used for many purposes, like Earth imaging, and then communication, remote sensing, etc. Now, these are just some of the applications of satellites. As we proceed with the course, we will discuss more and more applications of satellites. So, Earth imaging, communication. So, communication is one of the most important applications of satellites. So, Earth imaging, communication, remote sensing. Now, what do you mean by remote sensing? We will discuss in the next videos. Just don't worry about that. Remote sensing is actually a very interesting and very important topic. So, we will discuss what is remote sensing, and we will also discuss about the Indian remote sensing program in the further videos. So, just don't worry about that. But as of now, please keep in mind that Earth imaging, communication, remote sensing, these are just some of the applications of satellites. Okay. So, moving on. Why are satellites important? First, satellites have something called the bird's eye view. What do you mean by that? Satellites are situated very high above the Earth. How high are the satellites situated? Depends on the type of orbit in which they are placed. Okay, we are going to discuss about types of orbit also. Just don't worry about that. So, anyway, satellites are placed high above the Earth. So, that means at a single go, they are able to observe a large area on the Earth and they are able to collect data, or they are able to image a large area of the Earth, or they are able to communicate with antennas that are situated over a large area on the Earth. Okay, so that is the reason satellites are important. So just look at this point. Satellites have bird's eye view that allow the satellites to see large areas of the Earth at one time. So, satellites can collect more data more quickly compared to the instruments on the ground level. Clear? So, I'm hoping that you understood this point. And apart from that, we also have satellite telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay, so this is the image of Hubble Space Telescope. Now, satellite telescopes, since because they are placed in the space above the atmosphere, like not entirely above the atmosphere, but above the densest layers of the atmosphere, they are able to observe the astronomical objects more clearly. They are able to take much high resolution images compared to the ground level telescopes. The telescopes that are situated on the ground, they have to deal with, bad weather sometimes. So sometimes there might be a very cloudy weather, or, atmosphere also consists of dust particles, various gases that can obscure the view, that can make the view less clear. But satellite telescopes, they don't have to worry about all these issues. Okay. So, satellite telescopes like Hubble Space Telescope can see into space much better than the telescopes at the Earth's surface as they fly above the clouds, dust in the atmosphere. Clear? So, satellites are very important for communication. Okay, so just look at this point, you'll understand how communication happens with the help of satellites. TV and phone signals, for example, are sent upward to the satellite. Then almost instantly, satellite can send them back to different locations on the earth. Okay, so just imagine that, this is an antenna that is sending all the TV and, radio signals and phone signals to the satellite. Now, satellite will instantly send these signals back to the various locations on the earth, to different receivers that are situated on the earth. So, in this way, communication happens much faster, simultaneously. I hope you're understanding. So, this is one advantage which satellites provide us. Okay, now just look at this, guys. Such points are very, very important. Sputnik 1 was the first artificial satellite in the space. It was launched by Soviet Union in 1957. After the launch of Sputnik crisis came. And this Sputnik crisis triggered the space race between the two superpowers that used to exist, that is the United States and the Soviet Union. So currently it is the United States which is the only superpower. But back then there used to be something called Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. So anyway, let me just briefly describe 1 or 2 points about the Sputnik crisis. So the launch of Sputnik by the Soviet Union in October 1957 triggered the Sputnik crisis. So what do you mean by Sputnik crisis? That is nothing but a sort of anxiety and fear among the minds of people in the Western countries, especially in the United States. So those people, they viewed the launch of Sputnik as a technological gap that was existing between the United States and the Soviet Union. They viewed Soviet Union as technologically advanced compared to the United States. I hope you're understanding. So this triggered a lot of anxiety and fear in the minds of people. And this triggered the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union. So actually this space race is an important part of Cold War that used to exist between the United States and the Soviet Union. Okay? And before this space race, there used to be ballistic missile based nuclear weapon race between the Soviet Union and the United States. So what do you mean by ballistic missiles? We are going to discuss in detail in defense technology section of science and technology. So just don't worry about that. Okay? So as soon as World War II was done, there used to be a weapons race. What is that weapons race? Ballistic missile based nuclear weapon race between the United States and the Soviet Union. Okay, so after the launch of Sputnik 1, that became space race. I hope you're understanding. So the decisive movement or the most important movement in the space race was the Apollo 11 mission. The Apollo 11 mission of the United States. So as we know, this mission placed the astronauts of United States on the moon. So that was the first human landing on the moon. So that was a very decisive movement. That was a very popular and very historic movement. So basically this achievement of the United States overshadowed all the other achievements of the Soviet Union. Okay. So after this we can say that Soviet Union built the first space station, which was Salyut 1. Salyut 1 was the first space station ever built by mankind. Okay. So after the dissolution of Soviet Union, the space race between US and the Soviet Union also disappeared. So that is about the Sputnik crisis. So I hope you understood this. Moving on. Now, how do satellites orbit the Earth? The next question, how do satellites actually orbit the Earth? Satellites are launched into space on rockets. This is the first point you have to understand. Rockets, or we call them as launch vehicles. Just look at this beautiful image. This is the image of PSLV of India. Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. So satellites are launched into space on rockets or launch vehicles. A satellite orbits the Earth when its speed is balanced by the pull of Earth's gravity. Okay? there should be a balance between the speed of satellite that is revolving around the Earth and the gravitational pull of the Earth. If the speed of satellite is more, then the satellite would fly in a straight line off into space. Or if the gravitational pull is more, the satellite will fall back to the Earth. So just try to understand this. A satellite orbits the Earth when its speed in the orbit around the Earth is balanced by the gravitational pull of the Earth. Okay? If a satellite is moving too fast, then the speed of the satellite would win and the satellite would fly in a straight line off into the space. Or just imagine that a satellite was placed very close to the Earth. Now the gravitational pull of the Earth is very immense, so that will win. So the satellite will fall back into the Earth. So satellites will only orbit the Earth when their speed in the orbit is balanced by the pull of the Earth's gravity. So here again you have to keep one thing in mind. When a satellite is placed close to the Earth, in order to beat the tremendous gravitational pull of the Earth, the satellite has to move very fast in the orbit. There is something called low Earth orbit. What is that? We are going to discuss in detail in the next video. Just don't worry about that. But low Earth orbit is the lowest of all the orbits. So when you place a satellite in low Earth orbit, it is under the tremendous pull of Earth's gravity. So to beat the gravity, the satellite has to move very, very fast around the Earth to avoid falling back into the Earth. For example, the average speed of a satellite in low Earth orbit is around 6 to 7 kilometers per second. Just imagine. Okay? So I hope you understood how satellites actually orbit the Earth. Satellites orbit the Earth at different heights, in different speeds, and along different paths. These paths are nothing but orbits. Okay? So basically there are different orbits in which the satellites can be placed. So satellites orbit the Earth at different heights, in different speeds, and in different paths. So I'm hoping that you understood this point. Now, even if you're not understanding this point at this moment, just don't worry. When we discuss the different types of orbit, this point will become very, very obvious to you. Clear? So right now, I'm just moving on. Types of orbits. So the first one is geosynchronous orbit. Okay. Now, from here, the discussion becomes very serious. So please try to understand. And also, if you have any doubts, kindly approach me as soon as possible. I'll try to clear your doubts as soon as possible. Okay. So geosynchronous orbit is also called the high Earth orbit. That is the first point you have to keep in mind. Okay. Now, as I told you before, the speed of the satellite in the orbit depends on how close the satellite is to the Earth. If a satellite is very close to the Earth, the satellite would be under tremendous pull of Earth's gravity. Then the satellite will have to move very fast in the orbit around the Earth. Okay? Now, if you place a satellite at a distance of 35,786 kilometers from the Earth, the satellite enters a place where its orbital speed is equal to the speed of rotation of the Earth around its axis. First of all, Earth takes 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds to finish one rotation around its axis. Okay? So if you place a satellite at a distance of 35,786 kilometers above the Earth, then the orbital period of the satellite and the rotational period of the Earth both will be same. Now, what do you mean by orbital period? The orbital period is the time taken by a satellite to complete one revolution in an orbit around a planet or a star. What is the orbital period of the Earth? Earth takes 365 days to finish one revolution around the Sun. So orbital period is nothing but the time taken by a satellite to finish one revolution around a planet or a star. So because we are talking about artificial satellites, we are talking about the orbital period of artificial satellites. So when you place a satellite at a distance of 35,786 kilometers above the Earth's surface, the speed of the satellite would be in such a way that the orbital period of the satellite is equal to the rotational period of the Earth. What do you mean by rotational period? the time taken by the Earth to finish one spin or one rotation around its axis. Rotation is different, revolution is different. Earth revolves around the sun. At the same time, Earth also spins around its own axis. That spinning is called rotation. Clear? So when a satellite reaches 35,786 kilometers above the Earth's surface, it enters a place where the satellite orbits at the same speed that the Earth is rotating. It means the orbital period of the satellite is equal to 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds, which is the time taken by the Earth to finish one rotation around its own axis. So that means there is synchronization between the satellite and the Earth. What is that synchronization? There is synchronization between the orbital period of the satellite and the rotational period of the Earth. That is the reason we call it as geosynchronous orbit. First of all, geo means Earth, and there is synchronization between the orbital period of the satellite and the rotational period of the Earth. That is the reason we call it as geosynchronous orbit. As simple as that. Clear? So, geosynchronous orbit is a prograde orbit. What do you mean by prograde orbit? What is the direction of rotation of the Earth around its own axis? It is from west to east. So Earth spins around itself from west to east. Now, prograde orbit. A satellite in prograde orbit will revolve around the Earth from west to east. If you place a satellite in retrograde orbit, then it will revolve around the Earth from east to west. I hope you're understanding. First of all, west to east is the direction of spinning of the Earth, rotation of the Earth. So if you place a satellite in prograde orbit, then this satellite will revolve around the Earth in this direction. But if you place a satellite in retrograde orbit, then this satellite will revolve around the Earth from east to west. So that is the difference between prograde orbit and retrograde orbit. Okay? So geosynchronous orbit is a prograde orbit. That means a satellite in this orbit follows the direction of the Earth's rotation, that is from west to east. Okay? Since because there is synchronization between the rotation period of the Earth and the orbital period of the satellite, this orbit is called geosynchronous orbit. As simple as that. Now, the geosynchronous orbit is an inclined and elliptical orbit. As you can see, the geosynchronous orbit is a little bit bent. So it is inclined. Okay, so that is the first thing you have to keep in mind. Next, it is an elliptical orbit. You know the shape of ellipse, right? So we have two different types here. We have circular orbit. The shape of the orbit is a proper circle. And then we have elliptical orbits. Okay, so geosynchronous orbit is an inclined and elliptical orbit. Now, to understand geosynchronous orbit better, let us try to, step into the shoes of an observer who is observing a satellite from the ground level, and that satellite is in geosynchronous orbit. So for an observer from the ground, how does this satellite appear in geosynchronous orbit? So just understand this point and you'll understand everything. A spacecraft in geosynchronous orbit appears to remain above the Earth at a constant longitude. That means a satellite in geosynchronous orbit will appear to be, situated at a constant spot in the sky from the ground level. But since because the geosynchronous orbit is an inclined orbit, it might seem to wander from north to south. Clear? Now, geosynchronous orbit is a prograde orbit. What do you mean by that? The satellite in geosynchronous orbit follows the direction of rotation of the Earth, that is from west to east. Apart from that, a satellite in geosynchronous orbit has the same orbital speed as of the rotational period of the Earth, which is 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds. Now combine these two factors together. So, for an observer from the ground level, a satellite in geosynchronous orbit will seem to be fixed at a point in the sky. Okay, not entirely fixed, but it seems to be situated at a constant region in the sky, at a constant place in the sky. But since because geosynchronous orbit is an inclined orbit, the satellite seems to move from north to south. It might seem to wander from north to south, but it is always situated in the same region in the sky. Clear? So that is about geosynchronous orbit. I hope you understood this. Next, we have geostationary orbit. Now, first of all, please keep in mind that geostationary orbit is a type of geosynchronous orbit. Geostationary orbit is not a different kind of orbit. Geostationary orbit is a type of geosynchronous orbit. Now, the only difference between geostationary orbit and geosynchronous orbit is geosynchronous orbit is an inclined and elliptical orbit, but geostationary orbit is an orbit with zero inclination and it is a circular orbit. That is the only difference between geosynchronous and geostationary. Geosynchronous, as we have seen, is an inclined orbit and also it is elliptical orbit. But geostationary is a circular orbit. It is not elliptical, it is circular in shape and it has zero inclination. That means the geostationary orbit is right above the equator. Clear? So that is the reason I said geostationary orbit is a type of geosynchronous orbit. To achieve a geostationary orbit, a geosynchronous orbit is chosen with zero inclination. That means the orbit is right above the Earth's equator. And zero eccentricity. What do you mean by that? Circular orbit. Okay? If an orbit is elliptical in shape, you call that orbit as eccentric. But when I say zero eccentricity, that means the orbit is perfect circle. There is no elliptical shape. As simple as that. So basically, a geostationary orbit is a circular orbit at a height of 35,786 kilometers above the Earth's equator. So, zero inclination and zero eccentricity. That is geostationary orbit. Now, a satellite in geostationary orbit appears to be motionless and fixed at a particular point in the sky from the ground. Okay? Now, in geosynchronous, a satellite appears to move from north to south because it is inclined orbit. But geostationary orbit is a circular orbit and also there is zero eccentricity. So a satellite that is placed in geostationary orbit appears to be fixed at a single spot in the sky and it will never ever move. I hope you are understanding. So that is how the satellite appears to be from the ground level. So just look at this image, you'll understand everything. Geosynchronous orbit and geostationary orbit, the difference. So geostationary orbit is a type of geosynchronous orbit. So please keep that in mind. Okay. Now what is the advantage of placing a satellite in geostationary or geosynchronous orbit? The receiver at the ground level can always be pointed to the same area in the sky. You don't have to change the position of the receiver along with the change in the position of satellite because the satellite is never going to change its position in geosynchronous and geostationary orbits. Okay, so the receiver at the ground level can be permanently pointed to the same spot or to the same region in the sky. Now, I have a way to make you understand this better. So just watch. So this is geostationary orbit. Okay, so this is an animation of geostationary orbit. As you can see, the satellite is, moving along with the Earth. And the satellite is always communicating with the same single spot on the Earth. Now look at this bottom image. The blue color dot is the satellite. The red color circle is the geostationary orbit. And the blue color dot is the satellite. And the yellowish dot on the Earth, that blue color sphere in the middle is nothing but Earth. And the yellowish dot is nothing but the receiver. Okay, so as you can see, the satellite is constantly moving along with the Earth and there is constant communication between the satellite in the orbit and the receiver at the ground level. So this is geostationary orbit. Clear, right? So I'm hoping that you understood this. Moving on. Now, how do you place a satellite in geosynchronous or geostationary orbit? For that, we have something called geosynchronous transfer orbit. Okay. To attain geosynchronous and also geostationary orbits, a spacecraft is first launched into an elliptical orbit with apogee, that is the farthest point in the orbit, of 35,786 kilometers. So basically, geosynchronous transfer orbit is a highly elliptical orbit. So this first green color path is geosynchronous transfer orbit. Its apogee. What do you mean by apogee? The farthest distance from the Earth is 35,786 kilometers, and its perigee. What do you mean by perigee? The closest distance with the Earth. This is perigee. This is perigee, and this is apogee. Apogee and perigee. Apogee is 35,786 kilometers, and perigee is only 180 to 200 kilometers. So geosynchronous transfer orbit is a highly elliptical orbit. Its shape is highly elliptical. Its apogee is 35,786 kilometers, which is the distance of geosynchronous or geostationary orbit, and its perigee, that is the closest distance with the Earth, is only 180 to 200 kilometers. Okay. So initially, a satellite is placed by the launch vehicle in geosynchronous transfer orbit, and then it will revolve around the Earth in this orbit for some time. And the satellite also has its own engines, its own motors, and the satellite also has its own fuel reserve. So with the help of that, the satellite will slowly migrate to this orbit. So it will make many revolutions in this orbit and then slowly migrate to this orbit. And then again, it will make many revolutions and then slowly migrate to the final orbit, which is geostationary orbit or geosynchronous orbit. So very simple. A satellite is first placed in geosynchronous transfer orbit. It will make many revolutions there, and it will fire its engines and slowly shift its position. It will enter into this orbit, make many revolutions, and then fire its engines again, and then slowly enter into this orbit, make many revolutions again, and then finally enter into the geostationary or the geosynchronous orbit, which is the desired orbit. Clear, right? So I have another explanation to make you understand geosynchronous transfer orbit better. So how do satellites reach GEO? What do you mean by GEO? It means geosynchronous Earth orbit or geostationary Earth orbit. Okay, all these are orbits around the Earth, right? So that is the reason geosynchronous Earth orbit or geostationary Earth orbit. So how does a satellite reach GEO? After liftoff, a launch vehicle makes its way to the space following a path shown by the yellow line. So this is the yellow line. Okay. Now, at the target destination, the rocket releases the payload, which is nothing but the satellite. Now, satellite will revolve in elliptical orbit, which is shown by the blue line. Okay. So blue line here is nothing but geosynchronous transfer orbit. So the satellite will stay in this blue line or GTO for a lot of time. It will make many revolutions, slowly increasing its distance, slowly increasing its perigee. Just see in this image. The satellite is slowly increasing its perigee by firing its motors. So the satellite stays in the blue path, which is nothing but GTO, and it will slowly increase its perigee by firing its motors, and finally it will enter into the desired orbit, which is geosynchronous or geostationary orbit, that is shown by the red line. So this is how a satellite reaches geostationary or geosynchronous orbits. Okay. So guys, I'm hoping that you understood all the topics that we have discussed in this video. We have discussed about what is a satellite and why satellites are useful and important. And then we understood how satellites orbit the Earth. And then we started discussing about the different types of orbits. Under different types of orbits, we have discussed about geostationary, geosynchronous, and GTO. So guys, I'm hoping that you found this video useful and informative. In the next video, we are going to continue our discussion of the different types of orbits. Okay? So keep watching, keep learning, and I wish you all the best.